Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. Really happy to be bringing this episode to you. As we speak, the NBA playoffs are starting in the bubble in Orlando. And I'm thinking back on some legendary upsets that I attended in my history with the NBA. And one that comes to mind that should come to a lot of people's minds, especially if you're a Rockets or a Laker fan, is the incredible upset of the Rockets over the Lakers in the 1986 Western Conference Finals. The guy who hit that shot that sent the Houston Rockets to the finals against the Boston Celtics was the great Hall of Famer, Ralph Sampson, and he's our guest today. So really happy to have Ralph here. Some little tidbits and accolades about Ralph. Ralph was a three-time National Player of the Year at the University of Virginia. He was only one of two players who actually had that accolade. He was three-time consensus first-team All-American while at the University of Virginia. He was a number one draft pick in the 1983 draft by the Houston Rockets. He teamed up with Hakeem Olajuwon to form one of the greatest front courts in the history of the NBA, known as the Twin Towers, and we'll be talking about that. We talk about Ralph's journey to basketball, starting in the third grade, where he grew like 2 feet, and everything he's involved with now, all of his charities, his foundation, and all the things he's giving back with, including his podcast. And I'm really happy to be bringing my podcast with Ralph today. So thanks to everyone for listening and tuning in. And please enjoy this episode of Legendary Upsets with the great Ralph Sampson. So welcome, Ralph Sampson, to the Legends of Sport podcast, Hall of Famer. How are you, sir? How you doing?
I am good. Just like everybody else around the world is just trying to find comfort and peace in this pandemic and quarantine and just social distancing and trying to manage life.
So, Ralph, you've been watching games here during the pandemic, these bubble games. What's your reaction to that?
I've been watching them. I watched like what they call the exhibition games, and guys wasn't playing that hard, and I think they're getting their groove back a little bit as well. But and I watched that they started what they call the regular season, and you still don't have that excitement with the fans being there. The fans can take you to a whole different level, especially on the road when you got the rival fans talking noise to you. And you look at them like, okay, shut the hell up, and then you want to play harder because they own you. So you don't have that adrenaline. That adrenaline is not there to me right now. It may get there as they get to what is the playoffs and it gets more serious. But I think guys will kick it in sooner or later. But I'm impressed though of what the NBA has done. In the bubble, keeping everybody happy and maintained, etc. And then I was waiting to see just the backdrop and how they would have any fan noise. So it's pretty creative to have people able to log in and see the games, on a computer and have that fan reaction noise as well. So NBA has done a heck of a job doing that. But just the game itself, to me as a player, we still miss the fans.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up fans, Ralph, because, one of the reasons I want to talk to you today is because we're doing this particular episode during the block that we're doing, Restarting the Clock. It has to do with the first round of the playoffs and legendary upsets, right?
Oh.
Now, who could I talk to better than you? And when you talk about fans, you broke a lot of fans' hearts that day, man, at 86 at the Forum. I was there. It was a shock beyond shocks. I don't think I'd ever experienced at that point in my career as shocking an ending to a game, a playoff series, and a season for a team that you dealt the Lakers. So could we relive that a little? I know you've done it a million times, but this is what the episode's about. So it's the 86 Western Conference Finals. It's Houston against the Lakers. Lakers had won the first of the games. You guys had won the next four or next three, right? Next three, right. So, which was, pretty shocking to begin with. And the Lakers coming off the 85 championship, top seed, you were number 2 seed. So I don't remember how it all came about, but all of a sudden there's a timeout what happened? There was less than a second left. And
I'll go back. So we had just come off a very grueling series against Denver, in Denver. me and Hakeem had fouled out.
Mm-hmm.
And our bench won the game for us, basically. Craig Elo, Granville Waiters, Jim Peterson, Rodney McCray, Robert Reed, Lewis Lloyd, Mitchell Wiggins, all those guys had really won that game for us. And we were wore out. We were tired, and we had 48 hours basically regroup to play the mighty Los Angeles Lakers at home, and they had been resting for a number of days, right? So we got our tail beat, the first game, and I think they thought we was going to back down, right? We thought we would, kind of just give in because we were the young bucks on the block, and we were just getting ready to take that ride to the top. And so we regrouped. We had a meeting. I remember it like it was yesterday. We had a meeting, a team, and said, it's okay. We had to go to practice. Let's regroup. Let's everybody get some rest, and we'll come back and we'll make it happen. So we ended up winning the next 3 games. And as I tell Mr. Michael Cooper sometimes, the Magic, when I see them or talk to him, if that shot didn't go in, we were gonna beat you anyway. We were going back home. We would have won anyway back in Houston the next game because they were tired too. So. Yeah, that game was a grueling game. I actually watched it, during the pandemic. It was on, on ESPN or NBA TV. So I watched it again a little bit and started to see the fights over the bench when Hakeem and Kupchak got into it, and just the whole flow of the game. And then he gets kicked out the game, and then we get down to the wire. But as Rodney McCray says, it wasn't the shot; it was his pass. So he passed the ball out of bounds on the sideline in front of the Lakers bench. They put no one in front of him. So maybe you would have a defender in front of the guy that's passing the ball. They had no one in front of him. And Kareem played me behind so I could get the ball. He maybe should have fronted me, but he didn't do that. So I was able to get the ball in the direct pass from Rodney. And then, sometimes how you practice crazy shots.
Yeah.
So you always wanted a game-winning shot as a kid, et cetera. So I knew where the basket was. And so I just try to get something because we only had like 0.9 seconds or some crazy, not enough time left on the clock. So we had to get something off quickly. Yeah. And I got a great bounce, and luckily it went in. But we were a tired team. They could have taken us down if they were motivated, but I think they thought we wasn't ready to take over the reins of the Western Conference at that point in time.
Yeah. Now, do you actually call that a shot, Ralph? Seriously, I mean, you just like flicked the ball, basically.
Well, you can call it a flick. You can call it a shot.
That was crazy.
The problem is did I follow through or not? I don't know. So
that was crazy.
One of those shots that you dream about.
Yeah.
And playing against the world champions on their home court, and then seeing Michael Cooper lay on the floor, that was one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah, right. I mean, it didn't just bounce once; it bounced 4 times, as I remember, and it was very reminiscent because as I was watching Kawhi Leonard's shot last year against Philly in the playoffs, you might have had a little inkling of a memory there. The same thing, of just kind of watching that thing in slow motion just finally go in.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, those shots, during the game, they go forever, right? But it's always it's real time, but it's always slow motion. Bounces here, bounces there, and everybody's like at the edge of their seat. Yeah. And then when it goes in, either you cheering or you in like, man, we lost. So it's one of the best shots. It's like a football pass, right? You get a long touchdown pass. You get balls in the air so freaking long that you don't know if the guy's going to catch it or not, and all of a sudden somebody jumps up and catches it or intercepts it. Becomes a great memory.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to do, quite honestly. I didn't know what happened. I ran on the court. I saw you guys celebrating. See Michael Cooper laying there like, like he's dead with his hands over his head. The fans, every single fan in the forum was just dumbfounded. And you guys are headed to the NBA Finals. You're whooping it up, and it was what a feeling that must have been. And then all of a sudden, you're in the finals against the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, you go from one champion to another. I mean, back in those days, the Celtics and the Lakers were, the kings of the NBA. But I mean, we were very fortunate to win that game. But we had a powerhouse team. I mean, Craig Elo, imagine, was our 12th man on our team. Yeah, amazing. I mean, you had some guys on that team. I mean, I just ran down the roster. I mean, you, Hakeem, Mitchell Wiggins, Robert Reed, McCray, Jim Peterson. You even had Granville Waiters on that team. One of my favorite players ever. Yeah. That guy looked like he was about 65 years old when he was in his 20s, right? He was. Looking wise. I played Granville in college, at the NIT, and actually in NIT at University of Virginia on Super Bowl Sunday. So we've been knowing each other for a while. We had the chance to play together.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. He made you work hard in practice. And we was always going to be game ready.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, let's go back. Let's rewind the clock a little bit, Ralph, because you know your history is amazing, and probably the most highly recruited high school athlete, basketball player, probably of your generation. I think it's safe to say. You know, you ended up going to your home state college, University of Virginia. Was that a difficult decision? I mean, you were probably courted by hundreds of colleges, but did you always know you were going to go there?
I didn't. The recruiting process was crazy. You know, today you have AAU, you have all these recruiting services, whatever. There was none back then. I went to my first recruiting camp called the Bill Cronauer Camp down in Millersville, Georgia, BC camp. And I got invited. I get there and my name is not on the roster. So my high school coach is with me. We check in and with a Wayne Sampson on there, but not a Ralph Sampson. And we're like, okay, what's going on? So anyway, they let me in, obviously. But that year, you had the likes of myself, James Worthy, Clark Kellogg out there, Thomas Ray McCoy. You had a plethora of Hall of Fame guys. Supposedly the best high school class ever, 1979. So that started it all, you know, from a recruiting standpoint. We had, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 people in our arena when we played every night. College coaches, 20 or 30 of them at every game. And my high school coach is amazing, just turned 80 this year. And we set these rules up. We call them Sampson rules, and you had to follow those rules. So if you broke those rules, we got you off the list. And we did like almost like the Final Four. We had a list of thousands of schools, and we knew some of we wasn't going to, but they wrote letters every day. We whittled it down. Back then, you could take 6 visits. I took 4. I didn't take all 6. Go to UCLA. Well, they didn't have a coach at that point in time. You know, take a trip to Hawaii. I didn't want to go that far. So I took Virginia last because I had come to some games there, and I didn't need to see the school anymore. Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. And I go to Kentucky, and Coach Leonard Hamilton, good friend of mine, and I say, well, I'm going to come to Kentucky because it was the best visit I had. So you could imagine myself, same boy. We had Derek Horde, Clark. I mean, been 7 high school Americans on that team.
Wow. Yeah.
Obie Hall coaching, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I left there with the idea because they had the rough dormitory where you had your own room, you had an 8-foot bed, you had everything you needed there, right? Next year they banned that, but it was the best visit I had. And my mother said, no, wait a couple of days, settle down. Okay, great. I then go to North Carolina. And me and James Worthy would have played together. You know, the first year we played together, whatever. Dean Smith, rest in peace, tell Al Wood was the reason I didn't go to Carolina, because I would have played with him as well. But we took the visit and I got lost on campus for like an hour and a half. He said, Al said, just walk over to Carmichael and we'll see you when you get there. And so we tell that story every now and then as well.
That's funny.
And so that was a good visit as well. Because imagine playing with Worthy, Al Wood.
Oh my God.
Jimmy Black, Braddock, Matt Doherty, and then Michael New would have came in. There would have been another, you know, storytelling type of experience.
And being coached by Dean Smith. I mean,
by Dean Smith, the great Dean Smith, and all the other guys there as well.
Yeah.
Then I went to Virginia Tech, which was another good visit. But they was in a Metro conference. You know, Louisville was the only one in that conference that meant anything. Weak conference, good school. Their players were basically all juniors going to be seniors, so I only had 1 year to play with them, and then everybody had been gone. So I did that out of respect for Virginia Tech, because they had a good team back then. But you know, Virginia weighed out because it was close to home. Coach Holland's amazing. ACC, one of the best ever conferences in the world. Great education. So I was on track to do a lot of them. My parents could see me play every night. So I took that more serious as I approached it. And I literally go into my high school arena not knowing, still questioning where I wanted to go. And my mom said, basically, it's too long. We will make a decision today. So I did it, went to Virginia, and the rest is history.
And there's a great story about you, you know, possibly coming out after your junior year, and your teammates were nervous about it. And I got to read this. Ricky Stokes, your teammates at UVA, said, quote about you. He said, "We were always holding our breath that Ralph was going to was going to leave early for the pros. He would test drive these cars like he was going to buy an expensive one once he got to the big contract, and he'd take us out for joyrides. We were always relieved when he'd show back up in his old car, and we knew he was staying.
Right.
So you were playing with it a little bit, right? You were considering it.
I would consider it. Yeah, I mean, I consider it out of high school. I consider it my first year in college, where lovely Red Auerbach and that crew came to my parents' house, put $1 million in a briefcase on the table and said, "You can come play for the mighty Boston Celtics, and here's $1 million. If you don't take this, you'll never get it again."
Now, Ralph, I read that, and my researcher Veronica found that, and I couldn't believe that was true. That I was even ask you, is that a true story?
True story.
A suitcase of $1 million.
Briefcase with $1 million in it.
To jump right to the end.
Now, I didn't get to touch it or whatever, but I had $100 bills for the stock. Now I know what was under it, but he said it was $1 million. So
it's an unbelievable.
You never know.
Story. Wow, that's great.
But I tell people, that whole thing. So I had a chance to come out of high school.
Yeah.
First year of college, second year of college, and third year of college.
Mm-hmm.
If I had came out, Kevin McHale would not have gone to the Boston Celtics that year, right? If I came out, Isaiah Thomas may not have gone to the Detroit Pistons, and James Worthy wouldn't have went to the Lakers.
Man, would it change the course of
change the course of the history of the league a little bit.
Championships and everything. Incredible. Right. Yeah. Wow.
But imagine playing with Magic and Kareem, and 2 7-footers that could play, and Magic throwing the ball. I mean, Magic. I won the MVP of the All-Star game one year, and I said, "Well, do the Magic pass me the ball?" I mean, I had no choice because he can make great passes. But I would have loved to play with those guys for sure.
Incredible. Well, instead of playing with Kareem, you ended up playing with Hakeem.
Yeah, and
you're drafted in '83, first pick in the draft by Houston. You're Rookie of the Year in '83, '84, right? And then they draft Hakeem, and some guy named Jordan came.
Somebody gave me a Jordan. Yeah.
So it was revolutionary putting you two guys out there at the same time. The Twin Towers, that concept really had never been done before. Mm-hmm. Everyone across the NBA was kind of like, dumbfounded and shocked. Like, how's this going to work? Was that Bill Fitch's idea, or who came up with that idea? And who came up with who's going to play center and who's going to play power forward? How did that work?
Well, before the draft, the administration came to me and said, "Well, we would like to, your opinion about if we draft Hakeem Olajuwon and move you to power forward." And, had this Twin Tower concept. I said, with the skill set that I had then, obviously, I thought it would be a good move for me because I could run more, I could get out in the court, I could rebound, I could dribble the ball off the court, this, that, and other. And, back then, with my body size, I wouldn't be able to take a beating every night, in the post. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a great situation for both of us because we could be, as Hakeem says sometimes, double trouble. And I had his back, he had mine. And it was a special situation. I mean, I wish we could have kept it together longer. I mean, you have to understand, when we beat the Lakers, we had no point guards. We had Robert Reed. That point forward started with Robert Reed and Rodney McCray back in those days. That's right. Because we had no point guards. Our point guards, John Lucas and the guys, went down with some personal issues. So we started that whole phenomenon back then. But playing with Hakeem was amazing. We once we started to click. I mean, I can remember a story with Bill Fitch. I had to read the newspaper article. I said, "We're ready to play. We're ready to win." He said, "Slow down, big fella. Basically, we can't say that right now. I don't want any pressure." I said, "But let us go. Let us play." He wanted to call every play down the court. Hit the ball on Hakeem, pass it out, whatever. No, let us run. And we were eager to do that. Once we were able to do that, that's how we beat the Lakers. We just got down the court and had some fun. So it was interesting to see.
Yeah, but Ralph, at the end of that game, the '86 game, Hakeem was out, right? He got ejected from that game.
He got ejected, yes.
I forgot what happened. Did he punch someone? What happened?
If you see the video, so he and Kupchak always had something going on over the years.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm running down the court. We own the Lakers side of the court where the bench was, and Kupchak is defending Hakeem, right? And somehow, I guess he hit him in the back or something happened. And I look up and Hakeem's swinging on him. So Kupchak then grabs him and takes him down over the Laker bench, right? And we all just kind of go for it. So I'm like, just, you hear me? Just get off of him. Don't try to hurt him. We'll take him down a bit. Just get off of him. So we just had that rumble there, and both of them got kicked out. I mean, it was a physical game.
Yeah,
I mean, you can see me playing. I'm dunking the ball, and another great friend, great guy, Maurice Lucas. Big Luke, right? So
Sure.
Luke would come to me and whenever he's playing the game, before the jump ball, he would just take his elbow and hit me in the chest. He said, "Big brother, I'm going to be here tonight. So I might not be able to catch you up now the court, but I'm catching you now." So I did not know he was doing that purposely.
Right.
Until after we both had retired, we kind of hung out at an event, whatever. When they said, "No, I was doing that on purposely," I said, "Yeah," but I was dunking the ball, and then he would just push me, and you see me rear up and want to fight him at that point in time. I'm like, coming out of high school, college, I said, Maurice Lucas, somebody that was a grown man, he would kill me at that point in time. So at that point in time, I was ready to fight a little bit more. But it was fun to play against guys like that because they made you play hard. And then they was going to take your head off. I mean, you couldn't do the things you do today in NBA back then. They would literally come down through the lane. They're gonna knock you on your butt.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember it myself. You know, McHale and Rambis and Bill Lambier and all his shenanigans and and you know, Oakley and Mason and all those guys would just. I mean, that really couldn't happen in today's game. The rules have changed so much.
I mean, I tell you, one of my preliminary games against the Washington Wizards, Bullets back then, and Houston Rockets, and Rick Mahorn and I would go way back, and they had a vendetta against a guy named Hank McDowell on our team. Now this is a preseason exhibition game, and after Rick came to me and started laughing and said, "This is how we're gonna play it." Yeah. So he and his partner, I'm trying to think of his name, that played with him, that was a bruiser as well. They looked at each other and nodded their head and said, "Now it's time to go get him." And literally the next play down, they took Hank McDowell out of the game.
That's
fight, but that's the way it was. If you didn't like somebody, your partner was going to help you take them out.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up a hockey fan. I remember going to games in New York, Madison Square Garden. Guys would get in fights before the opening face-off.
Exactly.
Just drop the gloves and go at it because they remember what happened last week in the last.
Absolutely.
Well, Ralph, amazing to get these stories from you, man, because, you know, having been there, and it really was one of the earliest moments in my career where I was just like, oh my God, what just happened? And, you know, I've had a few of those since, but but as a legendary upset, that will be one of the top of my book for sure, that I was personally at. And I know it was voted one of the greatest upsets in NBA history. And that says a lot. So
it says a lot. I mean, but again, we'd have won anyway. So
there you go.
It's all good. We'd have killed them in Houston.
Yeah.
We tell Magic, at least you didn't have to pack your bags and fly back on the plane and get beat anyway. Oh, get the next 2 games at home.
Yeah, that's some tough talk to the defending champs right there.
But he'll say this. He said, "Big fella, look, you made us mad. We won the next 2 years in a row." Right.
And they didn't have to go through you guys, did they?
No.
87, 88? No, they didn't.
We got to the Western Conference against Seattle.
Right.
And our lovely guard, Derek Minifield, turned the ball over, and we lose the game. And then I think Seattle ended up playing the Lakers, but we lost that out there.
Yeah. So, Ralph, let's talk about what you're doing now, man. Let's talk about your podcast, Center Court. What's the theme of that? What's your whole point with doing that?
Well, you know, my co-host and I, Jason's on Fisher. We got Jason's a great guy. He loves sports. He's a sports junkie, Cleveland Cavalier, Cleveland fan, this and another. But you know, we inform people about our guests and who they are and what they've done, yes, but as well. But we have some fun. But for me, it's the heartfelt side of what we do, especially in today's world, what people are going through. But I look at all these podcasts and things that are out here, and I really want somebody to know, like yourself, that, you know, how did you become who you are? You know, you had a road and a path and a map to get there, and you grinded it out. And you become successful no matter what it is. If it's just making your bed up every morning, you become successful somehow, some way, shape, or form. So that's really what the show is all about. We try to get a little bit more in depth, stories that people will never hear, never know. Somebody like myself or you, when you sit there and see those stories, like winning the game against the Lakers, what the fans' emotions, most fans they see it on TV. Yeah. It wasn't in the building. Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, we did a story with Nancy Lee. I said, you know, she wouldn't play the trial for the Lakers in preseason and was getting beat up by Magic and Cooper and all those guys. But she came back every day. Nancy, why did you come back? You went to the hotel, bruised, battered, and beaten. Female, like, do you ever say, what was I doing? She said, no, I just took care of myself, came back and got some more. And they respected her. So those type of stories you might never ever hear of.
Right.
I want to know when she went to the hotel, what did she do? How did she recover? Stuff like that. So it's fun for me to be a little bit more in depth with the sports world, but also the business world and just basketball, sports in general.
Yeah.
If it's owners or people, even fans, we'll have fans on as well. Like, you were at this game. What did you see? What did you feel? We want those type of experience for fans to listen to.
So you have what Kobe would call one of the pillars of the Mamba mentality. You got a lot of curiosity, and
Yes.
I'm the same way. Being in this business not quite as long as you, but almost as long.
Oh, yeah.
Met a lot of people, been to, had a lot of experiences. But
yes.
I love to know the backstory, and everybody, for doing this, podcasting thing, and me, everybody started somewhere.
Yep.
Everybody had a mentor. Everybody had a pivotal moment. I remember talking to Kirk Gibson on my podcast, and he was a All-American football player at Michigan State. He had an NFL career right in front of him, but he also liked baseball. And he wasn't like you, where you like baseball in the third grade, you grew like 2 feet, right? So you couldn't play baseball anymore.
Yep.
But his football coach said, you know what, maybe he'd be better off playing baseball.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody's, inspired him. I know his story really well. And maybe you're a better baseball player than football. I was a better basketball player than baseball player.
Right.
But I love baseball.
Yeah.
Basketball was hard because when I played at a young age, we can only score 16 points on an 8-foot basket.
Oh, okay.
I had 16 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I couldn't score anymore. I could only get rebounds and block shots. That became boring. But as you continue to grow, you develop and you pick a sport you want to play in.
Yeah, for sure.
And you hopefully become successful with it.
Yeah. Can you tell me about 2 more things? Your Winner's Circle Foundation in your hometown of Harrisonburg?
Yeah, we have the, it used to be Winner's Circle. Now it's called the Sampson Family Foundation.
Okay.
And I have 3 things that we do there. One, we have the Ralph L. Sampson Sr. Hope Fund that is geared for cancer research. My dad had prostate and lung cancer 7-8 years ago. Got him 100% healthy. He's 84 years old, doing very well.
Wow, God bless him.
He's just a little antsy with this pandemic, staying at home a lot, but he has no choice. He has no upper lobe of his left lung. We took it out. But again, University of Virginia Hospital did amazing things with him. So we have that at University of Virginia Hospital and our local hospital, Rockingham Memorial Hospital in Harrisonburg, Virginia, where we've raised probably about $350,000 thus far to help find a cure for cancer and cancer research at those 2 universities. The second thing we do is my mother is 82 and doing very well as well. And she went to Virginia State University, agricultural school. We have a farm in Virginia as well, a couple hundred acres. So we have a scholarship that we're building in her name, in her honor there. It's the Sarah Sampson Scholar Program, where we bring in kids to the farm and let them understand how to grow and develop, and especially in this world we live in, that you might have to go back to growing your own stuff sooner or later and finding enough food to eat. But that's kind of program there. And then we just take on initiatives in and around wherever I like to. For instance, my high school coach is very special to me, and they wanted to name the court after myself in our high school, and I said no, I'm going to name it after my high school coach. So we take on certain initiatives. That was one of them. When I got back to Virginia 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was hearing that there were kids going to school hungry. Now, where I live and from is the largest agricultural county in the state of Virginia, by $200 or $300 million. I'm like, that doesn't make sense that kids go to school hungry and we in an agricultural climate. What's wrong with that picture? So down there, school breakfasts in the high schools and elementary schools, school lunches as well, that we just kind of worked on and got that done. And my last thing I just finished doing with our family farm, I created with the state of Virginia and the governor, a Air Bill Act that, because there's air properties people dispute over, I just went through one with my family as well, where we ended up winning to keep the farming and our family, our legacy. My grandfather, my mother's side, was in World War I, and I have 12. My mother had 12 siblings, 9 boys, 3 girls, and all of my uncles were in World War I, World War II. And so a lot of history, a lot of legacy there. So we ended up winning that battle, but we created this act, and the governor just signed it maybe 3-4 weeks ago, where people don't have to go through that anymore. You don't have to go through 5 years of battling, hundreds of thousands of dollars with the legal fees, end up losing your property because somebody in the family doesn't like what you do. So Anyway, that's the stuff we do with the foundation. So it's fun, as you see, it's a passion for me as well.
Yeah, man, you got a lot going on, Ralph. That's great. And the fact that you're giving back so much to where you came from, just says so much about you. I had Jerry West on the podcast last week, and the same thing, moved to LA and built his life there, but yet he gives so much back to West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. And it's full circle for you as well, for your life. And I wish you well, man. And wow, amazing story about your parents.
It's the best ever. I mean, I'm motivated. At their age, now I'm in the building process. So there may be a HGTV show coming up next year.
Yep.
But my mother, especially my dad, have to see where they grew up being in his glory. It needs to be. And so I've got a lot of renovation to do, but we begin that. It should have been done, but the pandemic slowed us all down.
Of course. Well, good luck with all that, Ralph. And thanks for sharing all your memories, especially of that historic, legendary upset in '86, man. That will live forever in NBA history. But it's so great to connect with you. And always one of my favorite guys.
Appreciate you.
And I'm going to tell this story in the intro, but, I did that shoot with you and Hakeem. I don't know if you remember that, but this is the craziest thing. You guys were there for practice at the sports arena in LA, with, in a game day shoot around. And I asked your equipment guy, can I borrow the jerseys? And he looked at me like, okay, what are you going to do with them? But I'm going to ask both those guys to go out to the loading dock and take a portrait. Can you imagine doing that today?
No, you couldn't do it.
Going up to like AD and LeBron, hey, would you guys just mind going out?
And come here and take a shot.
And you and Hakeem looked at me and like, okay. And we went out there for like 30 seconds and actually created one of my favorite portraits ever that I've ever done of any guys in the NBA.
I have to go back in the archive and look at it.
I'm going to post it for this and on the social media and also in the podcast. So
I'll put it in my office. I'll get one to put in my office. Good.
So thanks for
that's crazy. I mean, you had a guy named Dark Horse, David. They probably let you do that.
Of course, David.
And we only had like a couple coaches and an equipment manager and a trainer. That was it. Now you got like 400 people on the team trying to manage all the players and social media. So the fun days to me. It was the fun days.
I know Gary Vitti used to call it back in those days 12 plus 2 plus 1. 12 players, 2 coaches, and a trainer who did everything, which was him.
Did everything.
So anyway. Well, listen, it's great going down memory lane with you, my friend, and I hope everybody stays well. I hope we get out of this thing. I hope we get to see you in person at some point. And great connecting with you. So
thanks so much. Anytime. I love your show, and if I can help anytime, let me know.
Thank you, my friend. Take care. Stay well.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Well, big thanks to Ralph Sampson for being such a great guest. I didn't really know Ralph that well until we started to do research on him, and then, of course, got to talk to him today at length. And what a fascinating guy, very understated, and his game spoke for itself. Man, when the two of those guys, he and Olajuwon, were out there together, I mean, that was like almost 15 feet of greatness. I remember it like it was yesterday, trying to get both of those guys in the same frame, the Twin Towers going up to block somebody. I remember a specific moment against Magic Johnson. It was so great to catch up with him and learn his journey, learn about his story, and learn about everything that he's doing. I want to definitely plug his podcast called Center Court with Jason Zone Fisher. You guys should check that out. I'm actually going to be on that podcast at some point. So thank you to Jason and to Ralph for reciprocating this gift of having Ralph on my podcast. So everybody, got some big news here. Following this podcast, I will be reporting and doing my podcast from the Bubble in Orlando. It's going to be fun. It's going to be challenging. I'm excited about it. But for the rest of this block of the NBA restart, of restarting the clock, we're going to be doing the podcast from Orlando and probably from my hotel room. So it should be interesting. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to bring some great guests to you. We have some great episodes lined up for the remainder of the NBA restart season in Orlando. So keep downloading, keep telling your friends, keep rating and reviewing, whatever you got to do, keep tuning in. And of course, always follow us on our social media. Our Instagram is @LegendsOfSport. Our Twitter @legends_of_sport. Our blog, legendsofsport.blog. And of course, TikTok and YouTube, Legends of Sport. My photography can be found on Instagram @legendsofsport. Thanks a million, as always, to my great researcher and producer, Veronica On. This was a super fun episode for me to do, and I keep bringing these to you and keep loving doing it. So keep tuning in, folks. Tell your friends, and until then, I'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget, wear your mask. Take care.